There's a little sweet. There's a lot of sour, but overall it's mostly sour. I'm on Rotten Tomatoes now officially. Thanks, crew.
He will tell me everything of their deaths, how their bodies died, their faces as the life left. We will bond over our pain.
Drive-By Movies, you're watching
Fresh releases.
My name's Blaze.
I'm James.
And this week, we're talking An American Pickle.
You know they cured polio, right? A guy named Jonas Salk.
Was he Jew? He was. Yes.
An American Pickle is the new HBO Max exclusive. It's one of the first movies to be released specifically on that platform, which is cool. Cool to get something like that. It's directed by Brandon Trost, and it stars Seth Rogen as well as Seth Rogen. And it's about an immigrant worker at a pickle factory. He accidentally is preserved in a pickle jar for 100 years, and he wakes up in a modern-day Brooklyn.
So I have to say, I can't really imagine this movie not being on HBO Max. Like, I feel like this is such a small movie. I can't even picture it really being, like, if things weren't the way that they are at the current moment and like this year, I don't see this movie really even going to theaters. Like, it just seems so small. Like,
after doing some research on it, apparently it was supposed to go to theaters. It's a Sony movie, but, you know, Sony doesn't have they have Crackle as their main platform, but it seems weird to release a movie for free on there. So it made sense to push it to sell it to HBO Max. But it does feel like a movie that was made specifically for a streaming platform. Like, it's weird to imagine. Like, I would have hated this movie even more if I saw it in theaters. I feel like, not to say I hated it, but I didn't really like it. I wanted to, and I was walking in extremely excited, had the right greens to get me excited for it. Not pickle greens, by the way, also. But just like, yeah, I was expecting such a fun concept and like funny moments between two Seth Rogens, but it's very tame and just like, it's meh. Yeah.
yeah, I think for me, just the fact that like Herschel is so excited for this like soda stream, I think that's probably my favorite scene in the movie. And just it tapers. I just gets like, eventually it's just, you know, bubbling water, and that's how I felt about this film towards the end of it. It was just I was just there. I was just watching it. Yeah. But that like whole like first introduction to like what the movie, like the idea, the inkling of, and what made this movie come to fruition is exciting. It's a little fun. It's a little funny. It's a little lighthearted. It's pretty entertaining, but then just it really just tapers off, gets a little, I wouldn't say ridiculous, but it's just a lot less interesting. Some of the plot points just don't seem as, you know, really like they grasp my attention as such, but right. It just, it's just, I didn't really see this movie, you know, I like you said, I think I would have been disappointed if I saw this in theaters, but most interestingly enough, you know, Seth Rogen did make another movie for streaming before, and that was The Interview, and that was a Sony film, but I mean, The Interview, I don't think he made it for streaming, but it was definitely forced onto Netflix after not being able to be released in theaters because of North Korea.
Stop saying that.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, it was a fun fact. Speaking of The Interview, I didn't realize that Seth Rogen, I just read an interview recently about An American Pickle, how he was kind of scared to make a mainstream movie after The Interview. And that's why him and his partner, Evan Goldberg, like focused on TV. And they're like at the top of the game on TV currently. Like, I haven't seen Preacher, but I mean, I hear nothing but good stuff. I forget what some of the other shows they've worked on, but I know that one of my favorites, though, The Boys, is also helmed by them. So they're killing it there, which is rad. It's cool to see him back in movies. I was actually a really big fan of Long Shot. It wasn't directed or written, I believe, by Seth Rogen or Evan Goldberg, but you know, it starred Seth Rogen. So I thoroughly enjoyed that movie, despite it being a little too long, but I was, went in with high hopes for this, and like, it's a zany, interesting concept, but just there wasn't enough there. I thought like there were no substance to the characters, and I thought some of the motives were a little weird. Like Herschel, he's like, you know, wants to spite Ben, and Ben wants to spite Herschel over like very petty little things, I felt like. And it comes together nicely towards the end. I thought the ending was like satisfying enough, but there are some questions where I was just like, how'd you guys cross the border again so easily or whatever? But yeah.
Yeah, the movie, like, it does take an interesting premise, but it is based on a short story, and I feel like this movie reeks of it. It just feels like it is based on a short story. And funnily enough, a movie that we're going to be talking about later this week is also based on a short story, but I'm not going to get into that here. So this movie, I feel like, just feels like a short story, and maybe it would have been a better short film. I think they really did, flush the whole thing out, but it just didn't really feel that rewarding with the whole story. It was just like you said, the revenge. I'm just not that interested in it. I understand it was like kind of interesting to see two different generations of people, even though they're literally like the same age, but they're like are different generations and have different mindsets on like what they're trying to do. And it was kind of weird to see like Seth Rogen in his current day, Ben Greenbaum, he was like a hipster, but then like his ancestor is like a mega hipster essentially without even trying. Like just having the whole aspect, and people are willing to buy these pickles in Brooklyn like that. It's a funny concept, but really it can't last the whole movie. And I think that's like where most of my disappointment comes from, is like there are little funny inklings, like even the Soda Stream idea was like kind of funny, but then they just like keep like trying to bring it up, and it's okay, we've kind of lost steam here, like we've lost all our carbonation. It's just not that entertaining anymore. And like every reviewer out there is like, this is a little sweet and sour, just like a pickle. So I'll just leave you with that little note right there.
No, that's a perfect term. Like, I feel bad like stealing someone else's quote, but you're right. Yeah.
No, I just thought it was so cheesy. Like, it's like the cheesy reviewer just always like, let me relate the title of the film to the movie.
There's a little sweet. There's a lot of sour, but overall it's mostly sour. I'm on Rotten Tomatoes now officially. Thanks, crew.
Was this movie about pickles, or is it unfresh green tomatoes, folks?
Oh, God. I'm digging the puns here. Yeah.
That's like every reviewer. I love like reading those little reviewer like quote. I mean, if I was a reviewer, I couldn't help but do little things like that. You got to grab someone's attention. But I go for, like me, I'd rather go for the clickbait. Like, this is the best shit I've ever seen in my life. Like, like rather than, or like, this is the worst shit ever. And it's like a movie that everyone loves. Like, I like the Armond White approach. I don't like, the typical movie reviewer pun approach.
Right. Anyone who's like saying this movie is like the best of the year and stuff, they're obviously like paid by HBO Max. I feel like it's a fine movie, but just like if you're saying this is the best of the year, like I have a HBO Max account, so like I was actually stoked to watch this movie. But if you don't have one, this is by no means any reason to like, oh, go subscribe right now and stuff. Like, I do love HBO Max, and if you're just a fan of anything on HBO, I'd say definitely get it. But this isn't the movie to be like, okay, Seth Rogen movie, now I'm getting HBO. Now it's time to pay $15 a month. Now this ain't it. Yeah.
And weirdly enough, HBO Max is definitely going to lose its like steam this year in a sense, because like they're always known for having all the box office hits, basically, or not all of them, but a lot more than most streaming services. But this year, we're not really getting them as much. And I think Netflix already got sponge out of water, so got to watch out HBO Max.
Damn. One thing I thought was weird also, though, like Seth Rogen, I expect him to say the F word. This is his first movie ever not rated R by the MPAA and stuff. Like, I don't need cussing for a movie to be funny, but, like, it's just weird. You expect that from Seth Rogen, and not getting it, it's just very bizarre.
I think because he made this movie for like his parents and like grandparents, like any of his like homies that are still alive. Like, it felt like this was just, so everyone could, he could take his grandparents, he could take his bubby to the theater to go watch this one.
I mean, yeah, for sure. Like, sounds like we're both like kind of feeling the same thoughts on this movie for the most part. If you're interested in watching the movie, a good way to, help support the show is by watching the movie itself. It's exclusive to HBO Max. So do that, watch it, and come back here and let us know in the comments what you thought about the movie and our thoughts on the movie.
And if you haven't already, smash that like button, guys. Hit the subscribe button and click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
And that is going to conclude this week's episode of Fresh Releases. Tune in next week for a new video.